Coming to you Wednesday from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com and Stephen Means here. And Ryan Day told us today that he might be about a week away from making the final hire on his defensive coaching staff. The Bill O'Brien purgatory that they're in right now affects that a little bit, as there's some domino effect that takes place that does carry over to defense, especially as it relates to how much this coach will be involved in special teams. But Stephen, as you evaluate the possibilities here, hire a defensive line coach, like an assistant defensive line coach to work with Larry Johnson. Promote James Laurinaitis to linebackers coach. Hire a full-time special teams coordinator again, but this time someone with a defensive background who can truly help positionally and recruiting-wise at one of the other defensive positions. What do you think Ryan Day should do?
I think he should hire an assistant defensive line coach. James Laurinaitis doesn't seem like he's antsy to, if you don't promote me, I'm going to leave. That doesn't seem like it's on the table. He did get a chance to get his feet wet this offseason because they didn't have 10. He was out on the road, and he got to see what that was like. I like what Ryan Day had to say that he's never been a coach before, so he's never done that before. So it was good for him to just get that experience. I think he's fine. I think everybody in that program is fine with him spending another year in a GA role, and then let's have this conversation next year. I think that's perfectly fine. I think Larry Johnson needs a right hand. One, because it will help combat some of the negative recruiting that sometimes they get at Ohio State, because every year it's hey, this might be Larry Johnson's last year. Hey, Larry Johnson might not be there the entire 3 to 4 years that you're there, so you might want to go somewhere else, which I think is hilarious, because some of the programs who were doing that and then lost guys at the same time, so it's kind of weird, but they just need someone to combat that. They need a succession plan. He was calling a contingency plan a lot. Ryan Day was saying that on Wednesday. The defensive line room needs a contingency plan for whenever Larry Johnson retires. It's like, we have these two guys here, but even this is the guy who's going to be coaching you if Larry Johnson decides 2024 is your last year. So get comfortable with him as you're getting comfortable with Larry Johnson. Plus, it's just a lot of guys in that room, and it will help Larry Johnson, who is an older guy. I think that's how I would use this spot in a world where Bill O'Brien still stays and you don't have to reshuffle how you're going to do things.
I think the tricky thing with that is the guy that you're bringing in is probably going to be a pretty big deal too. And I don't think it's a problem with them coexisting, but what if that guy a year from now, somebody comes in and says, we want you to be the defensive coordinator, and now you're without either coach and didn't really get you anywhere. But I guess it helps you tread water in recruiting, at least keeps that problem out of the way. But you can also argue, is it a significant problem? They still got Edric Houston, so they're still landing major guys. From talking to Ryan Day today, I am more open to something that I don't think we had really been considering, which was still hiring someone who is primarily your special teams coordinator but has positional help somewhere else. So I think maybe right now, in Ryan Day's mind, I wonder if the ideal fit would be a special teams coordinator who has a defensive line coaching background and who can kind of cover both of those bases at once. That might be kind of a niche that isn't abundant out there, but it might be possible, because a lot of other programs, this is how they do special teams, is they pass it around to other guys on the staff. You might have multiple guys who are helping with it. It seems like that's something that Ohio State could be trending towards if they find the right person. I think you're right that the Larry Johnson discussion has crept into recruiting enough that there probably needs to be something in place to help ward that off. And I think the fact that James Laurinaitis can spend another year as a GA does give them the flexibility to move some things around as they wait to see if they ever get the unlimited staff too. And that could also, you could always be a year away from that coming into play. The thing that bothers me about the James Laurinaitis conversation is, yeah, I think it's great that he's getting experience out on the road. Why didn't he get that in December? Why didn't you just fire somebody after the season that you knew you were going to fire anyway and let him go out and start doing that? I don't get that. He didn't get asked that today. Why? And that's so far in the past now that maybe it's not worth rehashing. But it's something that bothered us at the time, frankly, from the timing of the way things were going, and it still kind of hangs out there as maybe a missed opportunity there. But I think for Ryan Day, you can't ignore special teams, and he's admitting he's got to go in and have some oversight of that depending on who they hire. But I think that if you can hire a defensive line coach who can also help you there, and you start to spread those duties around to guys, Matt Guerrieri, the new safeties coach, has been a defensive coordinator. He says he's going to be involved in special teams. If you can start to spread those things around to people that you trust, as well as giving yourself some of that oversight as the head coach, I think that is maybe the ideal situation right now. But a lot of these things are going to depend on who he ultimately ends up with as offensive coordinator. And I think if it's Bill O'Brien, it smooths things out a little bit. he can kind of take a very direct route to how he wants to do this. If it's not Bill O'Brien, then I think it leaves some questions to be answered, and it affects who they're going to hire as that 10th coach. More about that on Buckeye Talk, and get the text 614-350-3315, because when we have answers on who they're going to hire, we'll be sending it straight to your phone from cleveland.com.